Good afternoon and welcome to the Jakarta Post webinar series. This is the 40th installment of our webinar series. So if you think that the pandemic has gone on for too long, you're right, judging on how many webinars we have had so far. For today's webinar, our theme is Economic Outlook for 2022. And I think the hopeful sub-theme is Indonesia's Rebound. I'm Taufiqurrahman. I'm the chief editor of the Jakarta Post, and I will be your host and moderator for today. In today's webinar, we're going to discuss what's in store for all of us next year, especially on the economic front. As you may have known, things were pretty bleak earlier this year. In June, we have an upwards of 50,000 COVID cases per day, and by August, we reached the threshold of 100,000 deaths. We had a big banner headline on our front page. But as if by miracle, starting this September, we began to see a drop in the number of cases. And I think right now the number of cases is in the low hundreds. Yet, despite the good news on the public health front, we can expect that Indonesia will score a full year growth of between 3.5%, while next year the figure will be 4.8%. This is according to the ADB report. We're not sure yet about the impact of Omicron, but it is safe to say that I think, and we all think that things will likely be better next year. The major question but from where the source of growth for next year will come. Is it going to be the commodity boom or government spending, for instance? To answer those questions, we will join by some of the sharpest mind in the business. We will have Pak Stefanus Hadiwidjaja. He's the Chief Investment Officer of the Indonesia Investment Authority. He's going to have an opening talk. We also have Pak Dicky Septriadi, the Corporate Secretary of PT Pertamina Power Indonesia. We expect to have a lot of conversation about the battery. And we also have Pak Aditya Windarwo. This is the Business Director of PT Bank Neo Commerce. We also have Mariani Sholihah Buria, Head of Partnership Affinity from PT Allianz Utama Indonesia. And last but not least, we will have Pak Arianto Patunru, an economist from the Australian National University. A very warm welcome to our speakers. I'd like also to remind participants, everyone who joined this seminar, that you can join the discussion today by typing in your question in the Zoom chat feature. And while you're there, you can also fill in some of the questionnaires from our team. Your answer will be valuable for us to improve our webinar series in the future. This is good news. There are some gifts available for lucky participants who send their questions or responding to our online survey. We will announce the winner at the end of the webinar. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce Coordinating Maritime Affairs and Investment Minister, Pak Luhut Binsar Pandjaitan, to deliver his ministerial remarks. Minister Luhut is one of the key cabinet ministers in the administration of President Jokowi and has been instrumental in government's effort in handling COVID-19 and has also played crucial roles in crafting and implementing major economic policies. He has served as coordinating minister for political, legal, and security affairs during President Jokowi's first term and briefly served as trade minister under the Abdurrahman Wahid Gus Dur presidency. I think earlier this year we ran a big banner headline, and we have a moniker for Pak Luhut, Mr. Fix It. And judging how the COVID situation is improving, I believe the moniker fits him perfectly. I'd like to thank Pak Luhut for agreeing to speak in this webinar and invite him to deliver his remark. Please, Pak Luhut, the screen is yours.
Let me say congratulations and success for Jakarta Post team in organizing this webinar on Indonesian Economic Outlook 2022. After all that have happened in the last 2 years, I believe this event is exactly needed for bringing the big picture and hope to us all. 3 months from now, or March 2022, will mark the month when the COVID-19 will be in Indonesia for 2 whole years. We may remember the early 2020 when almost everybody was surprised by COVID-19 that spread quickly and took the life of more than 5 million people in the whole world, or 143,000 people in Indonesia. At the end of 2020, there was hope for the economy in 2021 to have speedy recovery. However, uneven vaccine distribution and speed of the injection between countries led to the emergence of new variants. The Delta variant first detected in India in the mid of 2021 entered Indonesia and created a second wave with peak cases around 3 times as much as peak case during the first wave, in line with the highly transmissible nature. In almost no time, hospital in Indonesia were swept with COVID-19 victims, and a lot were unable to get oxygen or treated in due time. The second wave was managed by a restriction of people activity, or emergency PPKM, that was successfully implemented, and thanks to a great coordination between all of us. The government, law enforcement, expert industry, and the people, and also military and police have been working together hand in hand, and this is, I think, one of the very successful team to tackle such a very complicated issue like this. We have learned from managing the first wave. PPKM was relaxed gradually by level according to the situation in each region. We also encourage faster vaccination and 3T, testing, tracing, treatment, including the use of Peduli Lindungi, so that the economy can be opened safely. And currently, or 150 days since the peak, the case has dropped by around more than 99%. Nevertheless, we now have a scare in the form of Omicron variant that was first detected in South Africa at the end of November. The variant made every country in the world, including Indonesia, vigilant. According to early estimates, Omicron has the potential to be more transmissible and has the characteristic of immunity escape from vaccination. On the other hand, so far, the symptoms have been mild to moderate. The development of Omicron variant will be the key to economic recovery in 2022. If Omicron resulted in significant hospitalization and the currently vaccines lost their potential, the recovery would be slower than expected. Yet, there is a historical pattern for viruses to evolve to be more benign a long time. Therefore, even if COVID-19 became more transmissible, it is predicted to result in minimum symptoms. If this happens, we can expect faster recovery as we can live with the virus more safely. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Omicron variant will not be the only source of uncertainty in 2022. Firstly, with increased global inflation, including in the US, the Fed and other central banks are starting to reduce stimulus. This will result in lower available liquidity for emerging markets such as Indonesia. Secondly, China domestic economic troubles such as property default have the potential to impact Indonesia. As China is Indonesian top export destination, the situation would be worse if US-China relation deteriorates like in the era of trade war or a Cold War. Thirdly, with the climate change becoming more imminent, more and more countries apply carbon pricing various sectors. As with the COVID-19, we cannot evade uncertainty. We can only prepare Indonesian economy to withstand the pressure from these various shocks. Economy recovery and transformation have to be done side by side. considering the increasingly challenging condition of global economy. In the health sector, COVID-19 showed us the importance of health system reformation. Seeing the lack of the hospital capacity, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and available health workers that could be deployed when Delta wave happened. We have had bitter experience when the import of important drugs was hampered as countries put their own interest first during the pandemic. Thus, the government encourages investment in the health sector. We have traveled the world, American, Europe, Emirates, China, about this, and many countries are interested in investing in us for the same reason. Namely, they do not want to be trapped in the supremacy of China and India as existing pharmaceutical hubs. In the commodity sector, we continue to encourage downstream industrialization as not to continue to depend on export of raw materials anymore. So far, downstream processing has been carried out on nickel ore, which is processed into stainless steel materials. In the future line, in line with the development of the global EV market, nickel ore will also be processed to become the cathode or EV batteries. All this also ongoing process right now. We'll see also the lithium battery production starting 2024. Effort to downstream production will also be carried out on various other Indonesian main export, including export products. Next week, I will attend the groundbreaking of the Tanah Kuning Industrial Estate in North Kalimantan, where many investors are interested due to the available commodities, the large land area, and the river that has the potential to become a hydropower plant. By using electrical energy from hydropower, the resulting product will emit low carbon emissions. To deal with the threat and the climate change, the government has issued Presidential Regulation number 98 of 2021 concerning the economic value of carbon. In the future, we will structuralize the implementation of this presidential regulation so that the Indonesian carbon market will form and we can maintain carbon emission to achieve Indonesia NDC target. We have also discussed with donors and investors to help early retirement of coal-fired power plants to reduce overall generation emissions. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, from a regulatory perspective, the government has prepared various reforms to support investment that can drive Indonesian economic transformation. The government has issued the job creation law and is implementing regulation. The implementation of the job creation law will facilitate investment with risk-based licensing, central local government coordination, and a regime change from a negative investment list to priority investment. The government also ensured that it will continue to prepare attractive incentive scheme to encourage investment both for domestic investors and foreign investors. Current incentives offers include tax holiday, ease of licensing, incentives for industrial estate, as well as prioritizing TKDN for government procurement. Going forward, we will continue to focus on implementing this regulation to facilitate investment that drives Indonesian economic transformation, and I hope investors here will not hesitate to contact me if they experience difficulties in investing. In the end, I would like to reiterate that we cannot escape from global challenges that are becoming more complex and dynamic every day. Therefore, we need to adapt and recognize opportunity from every challenges. The successful handling of COVID-19 has shown that when we work together, we are capable. I hope that the momentum of economic recovery that is happening today will be utilized properly and become a turning point for this nation. We must not be arrogant, but let us remain optimistic in the midst of difficulties so that we can build Indonesia Maju 2045. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Luhut, for your remark. I think if there's one takeaway that we can get from Pak Luhut's statement is we should be cautiously optimistic. I think early in the speech, Pak Luhut mentioned about the fact that Omicron will be a new challenges, although he characterized Omicron as sort of a benign factor in here. But I think there's, again, a cautious optimism about that if we can handle COVID properly, there will not be another surge like what we had in earlier this year. And I think there's 2 points that I think will be a perfect segue to our next speaker. I think Pak Luhut mentioned about investment in health sector, so that will not be too reliable on other countries in health supplies and also vaccine and also medicine. And also, I think there's one crucial point about the commodity downstream, whether or not foreign parties could undertake this opportunity in Indonesia. And I think those 2 points will be, again, a perfect segue to our next speaker. We will have Pak Stefanus Hadiwidjaja, the Chief Investment Officer of the Indonesian Investment Authority, or INA. Prior to joining INA, Pak Stefanus was with Creador, a leading Southeast Asia private equity firm, where he was the managing director and country head of Indonesia and Singapore. He also spent a few years working at global consulting firm, Boston Consulting Group, serving clients in financial services and telecommunication industries across both private and state-owned enterprises. He holds an MBA in finance from Wharton School of Business, University of Pennsylvania, as a Fulbright Sampurna scholar, and he got his bachelor's degree in industrial engineering from Universitas Pelita Harapan. And my first question for Pak Stefanus is, because INA, Indonesian Investment Authority, has been around for almost a year, and I think the main question is what will be the focus of INA and probably the role that it has played in helping sort of Indonesian economy to, if possible, rebound next year, or we have an economic downturn this year. What has the role that INA has played in that department?
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Taufik. First, I want to thank Jakarta Post for the invitation, and hopefully I can share a few words in this discussion. To respond to your question, Pak Taufik, first let me try to explain about INA itself, although we have read, I believe a lot of us have read in the newspaper about, or in the media about us, but let us also briefly explain about the firm. INA is the Indonesian Sovereign Wealth Fund. We have the vision to build the wealth for the future generation, which means we have to deliver a good return of our investment. But at the same time, we need to play a role in stimulating the economic and social development. And the way we deliver this is we do it through investment, because we think the right capital allocation is one of the biggest value creation in a country. That's our role. We want to invest in the right asset, and also at the same time help to improve the quality of the asset together with the management and also with our investor partner. And as you have read also, Pak Taufik, that part of our key mandates is to attract the reputable global investor as well as local investor to co-invest with INA. And not only to invest together with INA, we want them to add value to the asset. We want to build a world-class companies, world-class infrastructure, world-class healthcare services, and so on, right? Yes, we have started our work in February, so almost a year. We've been working around the clock to deliver these goals. In the beginning, and I think the next 1 year, we focus in assessing the investment opportunity in a couple of pillars, Pak Taufik. First is the transportation infrastructure. Second, in the digital infrastructure, which is a very important pillar to support this exponential growth in digital sector. and also in social infrastructure, the likes of healthcare, financial services, and I think next year also we want to also get more focus investing in renewable as well as the green investment pillar. And so far in the past 9 months, we have been talking to more than 100 investors globally and locally, and have set up partnership with among the best name and the largest investor in the world to invest in these few pillars. For example, some of the investors like Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, ADG, CDPQ, Canada, APG from Netherlands, GIC, Dubai Port World, and so on. And so far, I think we have got, I guess, more than $20 billion commitment, or close to 300 trillion rupiah from this large investor, including the first deployment together with AINE in Mitratel. So again, our role in here is to attract this capital, and together we want to allocate this capital in the right asset and add value to the asset itself, right? And by doing so, we hope not only through the investment in healthcare, but through this whole investment in multiple key pillars, we want to play a role in, helping Indonesia to rebound the economic growth, and not only temporarily, but to build a sustainable growth in the future. So I think through investment and through bringing a world-class investor to co-invest with us, I think that's our key role, Pak Taufik.
Yeah, I remember my conversation with Pak Rida Wirakusuma, the CEO, I think earlier this year, that the talk has been being great so far, and we expect to have, or at least Pak Rida said that we can expect to have a big announcement. But I'm not going to ask you about a possible announcement soon, but probably can you identify some of the key sectors that will become key drivers for growth and investment next year? Still tech or probably energy, Pak Stefanus?
Yeah, sure, Pak Taufik. Technology is, as one sector, is for sure. I think we all have seen the benefit, the impact of the digital economy that helping us during this pandemic. But for us, yes, we also want to invest in technology, but not only that, we want to play a broader role from the investment perspective, Pak Taufik. So as discussed, we want to focus in some of the key sector that I mentioned, right? I think we still believe there's a massive opportunity to invest in transportation and logistic infrastructure, right? I mean, when we talk about transportation and logistic, I mean, it's not only about people knows about the toll road and then seaport, airport. Obviously, these are very important. The cargo business, the port containers, and so on. But there's also this subsector of logistic. And when we talk about logistic, it's not only the last mile. We all know about this last mile logistic, but also the first and middle mile logistics. So very important. I think this is one area. Second, again, I want to highlight the importance of digital infrastructure, right? We all know how fast the growth in digital sector in Indonesia in the past 5 years, right? If you see the data about the growth in data usage in Indonesia is mind-blowing, right? It's almost doubling every year, right? So while supporting that, the whole digital ecosystem is important, we will also want to play a role in the backbone of that digital growth, which is the digital infrastructure. What I mean is it's including the telco tower, like the Mitratel, the largest telco tower that we invested earlier or 1 month ago. We're talking about the data center. We're talking about fiber optics. I think the quality of digital infra in Indonesia is still behind the other countries in the region, right? So to be able for us to keep growing on the digital space, growing the digital ecosystem in Indonesia, this infrastructure is equally important as the transportation infrastructure that I mentioned in the beginning, right? So these are, I think, an area that we can play a role. And the third thing that I want to share on top of, there are many other sectors that we want to get involved, is the healthcare, which we call it part of the social infrastructure. And the goal is for us is not only temporarily to improve the access to healthcare during the pandemic. Obviously, these are very important, but the way we see it is we want to really invest in a large scale to improve the overall infrastructure and the services in healthcare to ensure the quality healthcare access to everyone, and sustainably. So I think that's our goal. We are talking about the healthcare services. We're talking about the probably pharma manufacturing. We are probably in discussion about how about the vaccination hub and so on, right? So a lot of things that we can do in this space with the goal again to provide healthcare access, a quality healthcare access to everyone.
In the keynote remark, Pak Luhut mentioned about the big prospect that we have in EV battery. Will INA also have plans on that front, Pak Stefanus?
At this moment, we put it in our list, but I think still not in one of our key focus. I think the government has done excellent job in attracting the world-class investor, as we know through MindID, the some of the big plan that now being set up. So I think there are a lot of investment in this space already. We put that in the list, but we are still thinking on how for us to be able to play effectively and driving the sector going forward. It's on the list, but we're still thinking on how we play in this space. Our focus is still in some of the area that I mentioned.
Yeah, earlier you mentioned about tech and digital economies, great expansion this year. Do you think that it will continue in 2022 to sort of be the backbone of our recovery, economic recovery? And probably I don't know if you can get a sense of how much that will contribute to the recovery, Pak Stefanus.
Oh, okay. I think tech or digital economy will continue to be very important next year, and probably even more important going forward, right? And we all have seen again the importance during the pandemic. But for us, I think when we talk about the recovery, it's not only about this space, and then we can see how the other sector has recovered very fast, including the sector like consumer, logistic, retail, financial, and so on, right? And I think that's what unique about us. We adapt very fast, and then we recover very fast when things are getting better, right? And hopefully our things will be normal quite soon, right? There are some concern about the Omicron and so on, but we have positive mind that I think we will be in a much better state next year. So my first point is it's not only about the recovery through the tech and digital, but other sector has been and will continue to recover faster. And my second point, Pak Taufik, I also see that technology is an integral part of all businesses, right? I think all businesses should be enabled by technology, and many has been enabled by technology. So as such, technology in general, it is the backbone of the recovery and the enabler for the businesses to grow faster. So depend on how we define it. I mean, some people call it a tech company, some people call it the rest is still a traditional business, but I think I would say almost all business is a tech company, right? To the very least is enabled by technology. So back to your point, yes, it will play a very important role in helping in the recovery and continuing the growth going forward.
Okay, if my note is correct, recently you got 10 billion from UAE, and this is sort of we can consider this as sort of a new injection of money from INA. And I don't know if you can share with us how exactly INA will sort of allocate funding for next year, and what will be the government role or for generating the rest of the funding for the agency, Pak Stefanus?
Okay, I think first we focus on the key pillar that I have shared. We are working on many deals within that pillars, and we are very happy with the trust and the commitment from the UAE through their many different funds to commit the 10 billion to INA. But Pak Taufik, it's not that the money is being transferred or injected to INA. It is a commitment and will be deployed in the right asset or deals or platforms or funds that we will set up. And so in regards of this 10 billion, I think our role here to ensure that the deals or the platform or the funds that we are working on at this moment are attractive for them to deploy and invest in the deal. They already commit $10 billion, but they have to invest in something that is attractive to them, right? That can deliver the optimal risk-adjusted return to them as the investor, right? Our role in here is few things. First is to help source the right deals or platform, to help structure the deal, for example, lead the due diligence of the asset, offer the know-how on the situation on the ground and the local insight. And also, I mean, it's not all the deals we have to partner with them, right? For us, it's also important to select which are the right partners for each opportunity, right? Because again, the goal is not only to bring in money to Indonesia, but also for the money to be a smart capital, means the money can add value. There's a know-how, there's a global knowledge that we can bring to the asset. So it will be a win-win for both the investor and the asset owners. And from the government, yes, they have injected the capital to us. I mean, in total, it will be $5 billion, right, in terms of cash and also shares. And along the way, that's become our capital, and we will co-invest with whatever money that either from the UAE, from the other global investor, like the Canadian pension fund, for example, right, or with another sovereign wealth fund from Singapore or from Norway, and together we will co-invest. So back again, it's not the money being injected to us, 10 billion, but we will, look and review at the asset together, and then if the asset is attractive enough for them, then we'll co-invest.
Okay, this is my last question, and this will also touch on some of the detail aspect of it. Is that you have invest in BUMN Karya, and I guess the question is, do you have any key sectors of priority, or will you support more BUMN, for instance, Pak Stefanus?
Oh yeah. Yes, I think all the deals that I have mentioned to you, I will say the majority is the state-owned enterprise asset, right? And there are also some of the private asset that we are reviewing together with our potential co-investor, right? So, but the main point that I want to deliver here, Pak Taufik, is first, I mentioned in the very beginning, right? We have two goals. First is the commercial return. We have to deliver an optimal risk-adjusted return, and that's very important for our co-investor, right? And second, obviously, we want to help drive the economy and social development, right? So as such, we have to look at investment from the return perspective. It has to deliver the optimal risk-adjusted return, right? So if the opportunity from the SOE is something that is investable, and INA can play a role. I mean, we can play a role, structuring the deal, helping negotiating, from both parties so that we can come to agreement. But the deal itself has to be something that is investable for the global investor or whoever our partner, or even the local investor and INA. So it can be a BUMN, it can be a private asset. If at one point potentially we do a greenfield investment, for example, or if it is a project, and so on, it's fine. Many different form of investment, right? So, but we really look at with the very objective view with the lens of an investor. And then I think that's also the reputation that we want to build, that whoever partner with any, we work together as a good local partner.
Okay, before I let you go, this is last general questions about the prospect for next year. Your general impression, your prediction for next year. Are we going to getting in the right direction? We're going to get better next year economically?
Yes, I mean, we are all very optimistic in here. And then one of the clear sign. I live in Jakarta. The traffic is
it's back.
It's bad, right? I mean, in a way, we complain a bit, but I mean, at the same time, we are actually see, oh, this is fantastic, right? I mean, obviously, everyone now try to follow the prokes, yeah, Pak Taufik, right? Outside we wear masker, and so on. But I mean, the excitement, people really want to, get to do things like before the pandemic, even the easiest way to measure is, the retail business. People start going out again, and I think we are very optimistic. So many of the sector, even if I read the recovery in other market, right? The consumer sector, the financial services, even the retail business has recovered quite fast. Not only in Indonesia, also in other places, right? Obviously, case by case, if some of the country has to suffer a lockdown due to the Omicron, different story. But most other places is sort of like almost back to normal, right? So I think very important. The role of, again, healthcare is very will continue to be very important. So the healthcare sector will be very important going forward. But all in all, to answer in short, very optimistic, Pak Taufik.
Okay, thank you, Pak Stefanus. Thank you for your insight, and thank you also for making time to join us this afternoon. And I think this is the same that I asked Pak Rida when we have that virtual meeting. I think earlier this year. We're going to wait for the big announcement from AENA. Thank you, Pak Stefanus.
Thank you, Pak Taufik. Thank you.
Okay, I think now we can move on to our next speaker. I think earlier in Pak Luhut's remark and in my conversation with Pak Stefanus, we have a little bit touched on the issue of EV batteries. And I think the next speaker will be the perfect person to sort of tell us some of the insights from the industry. We will have Pak Dicky Septriadi. He's the corporate secretary of PT Pertamina Power Indonesia, a position he served since October 2020. Yeah. Prior to that, he worked as an executive assistant to Pertamina President Commissioner. Between 2018 and January 2020, he handled international relation affairs for Pertamina. He also had a brief stint at the political consultant firm Carta Politika and consultant firm Keroyan Partners. Pak Dicky has got his doctoral degree from Pandjaitan University in management, accounting, information system. I believe Pak Dicky will have his presentation. So please, Pak Dicky, the time and the screen is yours.
Thank you, Pak Taufik. Thank you for having me, and thank you for having us from Pertamina. Thank you for Jakarta Post for the invitation. So I'm so happy to attend this panel along with the what we call that colleague from other companies. Good afternoon, everyone. So I will share the perspective on Pertamina roles in to preparing the energy transitions. Yeah. So yeah, can we move to the next slide, please? Okay, so Okay. So as the oil and gas company, the biggest oil and gas company in Indonesia, Pertamina is facing the challenges to preparing the energy transition for Indonesia. As you can see on the screen, that the energy transition the growth will be very huge from time to time. So as you can see that on the left, from the 2005, the investment is going multiple by 8 times to 2020. So this is going to show you that the investment for the NRE business or in the renewable aspect is very promising in the for current development in energy aspect. So in Indonesia, we have to prepare it because some of areas or some of countries that has been made the commitment. As you can see on the center, what we know from the output from the COP26 in Glasgow, that some of countries that have been committed to net zero by 2050 is like led by the US, United States of America. So Indonesia is committed for the net zero is by 2060. So this is our target, not only for Pertamina side, but all industry in Indonesian company. We have to support this initiative committed by our government. That 2060 is not what we call that is not 2060 is close if we are going day by day. So we have to prepare it very carefully and strategically. We need to what we call that making a collaborations with another key players. So in the right, you can see renewable energy is projected to increase compared to the fossil fuel from the 210, the renewable energy growth move faster, and on the 2050, some of the experts forecasting that renewable energy will be what we call that close to the petroleum energy. So from what the experts say, that the transition energy is not what we call that the replace the fossil fuel, but it will be the alternative energy for the customer. So can we move to the next slide, please? To develop the renewable energy is not far from the emission reduction initiative that you can see on the screen. The data from the 2020, the transportations aspect is giving or what we call that producing the emissions, the highest emissions coming from the transportations, and the 6.8, the coal processing and all others aspect is going to be what we call that produce more if we are not do something with the transition strategy. So this emission reduction initiative was also what we call that set or what we call prepared from our government to be reduced by 2060 to net zero emission. So So the transportations, it will be the first. We have to we have to what we call that. We have to change the industry, since like what Pak Luhut says at the speeches. The industry of the electric vehicle will be start by 2020, 2022. Sorry. So can we move to the next slide? So the NRA potential in Indonesia is very big. That as we can see on the screen, that the geothermal is we only utilize the geothermal in Indonesia by 9%. So also the solar or the sun energy, we only utilize for 0.7%. So this is I'm going to show this slide to encourage what we call everyone, that Indonesia is having some huge potential on the new renewable energy resource, that we have to utilize it, and we have to collaborate, because Pertamina is not doing alone, since like under Pertamina right now we have Pertamina geothermal energy, and which utilize the geothermal development in 15 areas in Indonesia, and the biggest one is in Kamojang, Garut, and also in Lahendong, Sulawesi, North Sulawesi. So in the future, we have some initiative to develop the wind power and the hydro power, is the power generations to generate the electrifications to what we call that, to use by the customer, because the future of energy is the electricity. So if we are doing alone, we cannot do this initiative what we call that optimally, since like there is our big brother PLN, who also have under the regulations, the government regulations, so who obliged to deliver the electrifications to the end customer. So we have to collaborate with PLN, we have to collaborate with another company to what we call that, to make this everything happen. So can we move to the next slide? And in this slide, we can see that government has been set the target for the 2025 is the energy mix, and for the NRA is 23%. Since like right now or currently, we are reaching only for 11 to 12%. So we are having like 3 or 4 years to reach the 23%. That this is impossible to reach if we are not collaborate with together to make this happen. Because in 2050, the government has been set the target for the 31% the energy mix, and the NRA is going to be what we call that the second majority on the energy mix. And then in the next slide, you can see that the Pertamina's initiative in doing the energy transition, we also raising the capex for the NRA development. As you can see on the right, on the far right, we the road, the gas and NRA, Why the gas? Because the gas is the bridging aspect before we are going to the fully renewable resource. Since like gas is the one of the cleanest energy that Pertamina has many source of the gas currently, and for this capex is going to be multiple, and currently the company has been set for 8 billion or 9% from the total capex in all the Pertamina group. And the far left, you may see that in 2030, the management or the shareholder has been set the target. Pertamina needs to develop the NRA aspect or renewable energy to become 17%. It will be significant numbers that currently Pertamina is doing the what we call the fossil fuel business, right? So this is going to be the biggest challenge for all of us in Pertamina, but we are optimistic that we can reach this target, since like we are what we call that we need to do something, because the transition of this energy is coming so fast, because as you know that when we discuss with some friends or we make jokes with some experts, the transition is now, so we cannot do the bargain with the market, right? If the market is being changed, we cannot do something like we click our fingers. So we need to prepare it, what we call that, very carefully. On the next slide, we are talking about the emission reduction in Pertamina's perspective. So Pertamina has reduced 27% of emission in 2020. So this is the what we call that we reached the target, since what we call that, because this reducing of emission is to support the national determined contribution that has been set by our government, and also our lovely president has been made a statement in COP26 in Glasgow, and also in the Paris Agreement, that Indonesia our nationally determined contribution is targeted to 26% in 2020. Pertamina has been reached 27%, and also this is what we call that the make some appreciation for all of the team in Pertamina who has been supporting this to reach the target. And in 2030, the NDC numbers has been raised or increased to 29%. So this is going to be the biggest challenge also, but I think what we call that, I still believe that the collaborations between all the companies or SOE, not only SOE, the private sectors also will help our government to reach the emission reduction target. In the next slide, we can see that this is the master plan of the future business of Pertamina. So as you've been heard that our minister Bapak Thohir always said that Pertamina has needs to reach the market value for 100 billion. So you can see on the screen, I just only what we call that, I just want to discuss about the NRA aspect, right? So from the geothermal, we are going to increase our installed capacity. Right now we are having our own operations is 670 megawatts, is the biggest installed capacity for geothermal in Indonesia, and also from the joint operation contract or ZOC with the private, we are having the 1,208 megawatts. So if we are what we call we are added all these installed capacity from our ZOC contract or from our own operations, it will reach 1,800 megawatts, since it's the biggest geothermal installed capacity in Indonesia. So also we have the power generation business, like we did in this Pertamina Power Indonesia, the company I work for. We have the project called Jawa 1 or Java 1 project in Karawang. It is the project is consortium between Pertamina Power Indonesia, Marubeni, and Sojits. And if the commercial operation that's or this project is on stream, it will be the biggest combined cycle gas power generations with the installed capacity for 1.8 gigawatts. So
sorry to interrupt, Pak Dicky. You have another 3 minutes. If you
okay. Thank you, Pak Taufik. So I will be make it quick. Next is related with the Pak Luhut's statement at first speech. We are going to show you the strategic house from our company. As you can see on the far left, we have the 4 gigawatts for the gas to power, and the carbonizations. Why this pipeline is so big is because from one project, gas to power, it can what we call produce 1 to 1.5 gigawatts. So we continue to the second phase is 5 gigawatts for the renewable energy, including inside this initiative, there is a geothermal, solar panel, hydro, and biomass, and also the waste to energy. And this will be the biggest what we call that transition will happen in 2022. We are having the target to install the PV panel in 1,000 gas stations in Indonesia. So we have to make it quick because we have 5,000 gas stations in Indonesia. So what we call it, related with the Pak Luhut statement, we have also the battery and EV initiative and hydrogen and carbon market. So the green industrial complex is a very unique business aspect. The battery EV, we are not doing alone because we are having IBC, a part of it. So this is the consortium between the SOE, right? The Mine ID, the PLN, and the Antam, and also the Pertamina. We are doing the downstream aspect. Pertamina will do the downstream with the charging station, battery swap, and battery pack. So this is gonna be interesting, and if there is some time, I will show you the what we call that the initiative. We can jump to the last slide, please. No. Okay, so I'm quoting this from the McKinsey's report. So this is the challenges if we are doing the NRE business, right? So from the far left, we can see the capex and opex excellence, because the capex for NRE development is still expensive. This is how the government needs to be what we call that, giving the incentive for the industry, and low cost funding. Also the green financing, there's many green financing in the market right now, so we can choose the best price on the market. and the scale. Why the scale? Because when we develop the NRI business with the big scale, the capex will be decreased. So this is gonna be good with for the development of the NRI. And the technology innovations we cannot do without the TKDN. What this is related with the Pak Luhut says in the first, right? We have to obey the regulations, the TKDN, and this is how the investment going to Indonesia needs to bring the technology. Because if we are not doing this technology transfer, we are not doing the business in the future. Last but not least, the privileged access to the market. So because Pertamina is the biggest company, so we have the biggest market in this NRI development. So everyone or Maria or Pak Ari or everyone in here, if you are having some partners who interested to invest in the new renewable energy, you can call me. Thank you, Pak Taufik. So I'm using this panel to be a salesman, right?
Thank you, Pak Dicky. Yeah, I think that's very reassuring for us that Pertamina had a strategy to sort of mix between renewables and the old source of energy. And I believe in the short term, next year, when we expect the economy to rebound, we're going to expect to see a huge demand and energy. And if Pertamina had in place something that can be sustainable in the long run, I think it's very happy to hear. Thank you again, Pak Dicky, for your presentation. And I will move on to our next speaker. And I think in the past 1 year, we in the newsroom is trying to find sort of the defining feature of the 2021. I think one of us or some of us.
I think we lost your sound, Pak Taufik.
Okay, sorry. Mic check.
Yeah.
I think I'm back online. Okay. Check.
Good, Pak.
Okay. Okay, sorry for the interruption. I don't know if everyone can hear me now. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, I think earlier this year, when we decided to have a year-end outlook for the newspaper, we have agreed that fintech is big in 2021, and in 2022 we expect this to be even bigger. And our next speaker, I think, will be the right person to talk about this. Our next speaker is Pak Aditya Windarwo. He's the business director of PT Bank Neo Commerce. Aditya has an extensive knowledge and experience in the banking industry. Prior to joining Bank Neo, he worked for a number of banks, including Bank Permata, Bank Mega, Bank Danamon, Citibank, and HSBC in different capacity. Pak Adit got his master's degree in finance from University of Colorado in the US. So, Pak Aditya, the time and the screen is yours, please.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mas Taufik and Jakarta Post for having me and Bank Neo Commerce here. I would like to sort of continue what in the beginning, the opening, Pak Luhut, then Pak Stefanus Ade, and Pak Dicky. From the commercial on what's the excitement and the what's going to happen going forward. Yeah, if we see that the Indonesia has the population more than 270 million, and with more than 200 million internet users. So the internet penetration is quite high. But however, on this certain segment that the individual and SME and commercial, they have a very low penetration on the in terms of banking and underbank. So I would like to take back a bit. Probably if we see 5 to 7 years before, we're discussing about this disruption, this digital disruption, and also this banking disruption. As a commercial bankers, I would see that during that period, the rapid growth of fintech and startups will be the threat of the commercial banking. But nowadays, we see them more as a strategic partner, because there's some of the area that fintech or the startup cannot do efficiently, and there's some area that the commercial bank cannot do their own. So I think in terms of business model, if I may, from my, I think the model is getting a bit blurry, and the digital bank is the perfect solution to bridge the needs of the agile banking services during the fintech era. And there are two main focus actually of the customers that we're trying to serve here. The individual customer, which is more homogeneously in terms of services and needs, like you paying the fees, transfer fund, and then need a credit or loan, and also the SME and commercial, which is more heterogeneity. Why heterogeneity? Because if you own the restaurant and if you own the a barbershop, it's totally different business model. But the thing is, we need to accelerate the digitalization from the banking service and financial service point of view. From the regulatory, we also have the redefinition of the banking industry from the previously using the buku categorized more into the capital requirement to the KBMI or KBMI. Now we divide into the 4 KBMI from the KBMI 1 to KBMI 4. And it is highlighted in the POJK, the new regulation of the OJK 12 and 13 this year, where the government is redefining the bank. And in terms of approval process, they put more simple and acceleration. So this is the growth statistics of the digital bank. If we see that here, the neobank currently have the more than 12.5 million users. We start the online account opening back then in March, less than a year. Currently, we have 12.5 million. We are leading at this moment compared to other. This is the comparison of the digital bank in the Indonesia at this moment. And we believe that with the strong growth, we can continue to perform well in the future to serve UMKM, the SME and commercial, and also individual segments. So there are 4 key that probably Baba asked how we can grow so fast. There are 4 keys that actually we emphasize here on how we develop these numbers of customers so fast. We do have no historical barriers. We start from scratch. We begin as a pension bank in the past, Bank Buku Satu, we transform into digital bank, and we define our business model. We don't sell we offer the right business model to our segment. We so focus on our segment, and we try to serve what they need in a more simple way through digitalization. And then we also partnering with the giant tech company such as Sunline and Huawei, and also the cloud company in China to build our platform to be the leading digital bank in this country. And earlier, when I say that the business model now is getting blurry, so we took a digital ecosystem as one of the key for us to grow. Before that, probably if we see the big bank invest in the more branches or ATMs to do the transaction, and it become very costly nowadays. And that same thing happened to the fintech industry. If you see that what currently happened in fintech or startup is growing so fast, the gap is getting narrow between nowadays compared to 5 years before, compared to US or China market, for example. So we partnering with the some strategy partner to embark a lot of customer. If we talk about banking, 10 years back, we talk about credit risk, we talk about the profitability. But now probably if we talk about the digital banking and future banking, we talk about design thinking, machine learning, artificial intelligence, IoT, big data, and so on and so forth. So I think the world is changing, and this pandemic also given some different behavior to the people on how they're doing their financial transaction and how they're doing a lifestyle every day. So we also try to put a strong digital footprint on digitalization in this country by using the simplification to giving the good access and data to the banking user, that segment which I previously in the slides underbanked and underserved. And one of the plan I had is we do the open banking. Open banking means that we can do more flexibility. We can do transaction like fintech, but in the corridor of the commercial banking. We still the commercial bank, but we operate in digital platform. The key for this business actually is to get the big numbers of the customers, the volume of transactions, and also the strategic digital ecosystem. So no matter that, for example, if a bank, they want to serve a lot of segment of customers, they try to focus on all those segments. I don't think it's really strategic for them to put all the features into the services. One, the problem is the application will become heavier to access. And secondly, there will be no point that all segments will be having the same needs in the same features. So we try to focus on our segment since the beginning. It's the productive age and also millennial, and at some point on the lending side, probably the SME and commercial. And we offer them the open banking experience. They can transact through the ecosystem across the platform, as long as they have a good internet signal and also a smartphone, they can do the transaction through our platform. The basic core services that we provide is like the payment or debit, the investment, the credit, and also later on the life services. So the plan is we want to go is beyond financial services and banking. For example, we can do like you want to send merchandise to other people, you want to book a ticket, you want to see a doctor through the digital platform, you want to book a hotel. So that will be more applicable and more accessible through the application. And the difference is now and back then, actually, when those data and resources is very costly in the past, and now is available at a very low cost through the digital platform. Okay, this is some highlights that we have done throughout these years. The key performance, we have reached 12.5 million account users. We're partnering with more than 80,000 micro merchant users, and we have 1.7 million daily active users. And the acquisition cost model is quite different from the conventional bank and digital bank. We're partnering with offline and online merchant. The cost of acquisition is lower than it used to be. So we offer now is the lineup product is the online account opening. We do have a flexi savings, deposit, top-up balance like PPOB, the VA transfer, and there's the bookkeeping journal and Neo World in our applications. Soon, we will have more than handful of numbers of features such as QRIS payment, the wealth management product, the in-app commerce, the digital lending, insurance, and also the internet banking is underway soon, probably early next year. So this is the deliverable so far. So back then to our journey, we have our online open account on around March 2021. And then at the first, we just opened the simple deposit products. And along the way, we try to maintain our customers' behaviors based on what they need, like they need to payments, they need to lending. So we try to equip our application with more feature as per they required. So you can see that on the iOS or Play Store, currently we are among the top or number one, the top in financial category in iOS and Play Store, and we have surpassing more than 15 million total downloads and 12.5 KYC, which means already become our customers. So we try to structure, we try to make it the application very light, accessible, easy to access, and easy to use. So we try also care about our customer journey, our customer experience, and we are so focused on that segment, the productive age, millennial, and later on SME commercial. That's what makes them using our applications. So this is the plan and outlook ahead by stages on what we are now and what we will be doing in the future. So we want to transform, actually, just like the online application or the banking, we want to go like beyond banking and beyond financial. We want to serve more than what currently banking provides in Indonesia. So we want to have the lifestyle services in our application. We want to have like education, health, and other things. And when we have that internet platform is in place, next year we will collaborate with more strategic partner through the SME and commercial segment. We will have our own digital financial ecosystem through the e-commerce, through the marketplace, through the connection between applications. So we try to embark the open platform for the open banking, for the more simplicity, and we try to accommodate what most people needs for the financial transaction. And why we focus on the millennial and productive age, because we believe that the demography of Indonesia will reach the peak within probably 5, 10, 15 years ahead. And we want to nurture those segments to be using our application to digitalize them, to make tech savvy and digital savvy, and using our application, and we will reach the peak in 2045. So we try to optimize the function to maintain core product competency. I think I don't have much slides, but I will very much happy if there's some interaction and there's some question later on in this event, and I'm very happy if I can answer the question. Mas Taufik.
Thank you, Pak Aditya. That's right on time, right on cue. Yeah, I think it's also reassuring, and given the large number of unbanked population in the country, I think an app like or services from Bank Neo, this is really a godsend for most of them, and we can expect those kind of services to contribute to the economy next year or the year after, so that we can have better growth next year. So absolutely. I think that's we should move on to our next speaker. We will have Ibu. This is our fourth speaker, Ibu Mariani Sholihah, or Buria. She's the head of partnership Affinity, of PT Allianz Utama Indonesia. Ibu Ria also had an extensive experience working for the industry. She joined PT Zurich Insurance Indonesia between 2008 and 2011 as senior manager. She also had a brief stint with PT Malaka Trust Insurance between 2011 and 2012. It'll be interesting to hear Buria talks about the landscape of the industry for next year. So please, Ibu Ria, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Mas Taufik, and thank you, Jakarta Post, for the opportunity today. Happy to be here today. Today, I will be touching a bit on travel insurance on the new era. Let me start my presentation. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, I think the pandemic has presented unique challenges for all industries. I think you mentioned previously by the previous panelists. This also includes us in the insurance industry, with the social restriction and then limited mobility. In a way, force people to focus on what is really needed or necessary at the time being, and they also limit their spending to just the basic needs or what is relevant at the moment. So this new world has also made people more increasingly rely on digital technology in their daily lives, accessing all kinds of service which is previously available offline, now shifted to online because we're adjusting with the situation that we are in with the pandemic. But on the positive side also, the pandemic has also increased the public awareness on the importance of insurance, for example, health insurance. And insurance industry is also adapting to the situation, whereby I think more and more today we can see insurance offer, people can access insurance, which is embedded in daily activities or daily purchase. And that is basically the positive side of this. And currently, as the pandemic situation is improving, we are seeing more offline events and also hybrid arrangements between offline and online, and increase in mobility. And with the new normal, people also start to spend more outside of the basic needs, where traveling is also one of the activities that is predicted to be even more busier than the pre-pandemic time. So I think with the rising trend of the tourism industry, it will surely help to boost or to for the general insurance to basically grow and bounce back, specifically from the travel insurance segment. Yeah. So I think at the beginning of the pandemic, it presents basically where we're seeing a lot of high number of cases, mainly driven by the Delta variant, causing many countries to impose lockdowns, and many borders are closed and travel ban restrictions are imposed, especially to countries with high case numbers. And currently, with the vaccinations and also strict health protocols, the spread of COVID are much more manageable. However, there are still uncertainties, especially with the new variant of concern, Omicron. Yeah. And some countries are also closing the borders, especially for those traveling from countries which is detected with this new variant. Although some countries still impose travel restriction, there are also some countries that already open, but with strict health protocols. For example, having full dose of vaccines, requirement on specific vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna, and also mandatory quarantine, PCR on arrival, and some countries also impose mandatory travel insurance or health insurance for people to actually travel or enter a country. For example, Singapore imposed a minimum of 30,000 Singapore dollar worth of travel insurance or medical cover. Thailand imposed 50,000 US dollar. And I think most European countries impose 30,000 euros minimum as basically a requirement. So we did a survey back in 2021. We asked people what are the main concerns when it comes to traveling at this era. I think it came back with 3 responses. One is, I think, the concern if they have to experience flight cancellation, flight delay, or missed connections. And then if their travel plan have to be impacted by epidemic like COVID, and also in the case they need medical attentions during a trip. So in relation to that concerns, we asked what benefit the customer would like to see in their travel insurance plan. So the top responses are one, basically coverage when it comes to trip cancellation. If they have to cancel their trip due to sickness or injury for the insured or the family member. The second one is basically the coverage in the case of trip cancellation due to pandemic or epidemic that we're facing right now. And the third one is the coverage for medical emergency during the trip. So these concerns and also current condition during traveling is what we take into account when we develop or design our solutions for travel protection. Yeah, so basically, Allianz, we remain committed to provide protection for our customers, especially during this tough times. Customer remain the focus, the center of focus for our innovations. Our priority is to ensure that customer can still be served well, regardless of the condition. For example, the challenges with working from home as the impact of the pandemic. So we continue to innovate so that every product and service offered is relevant with the changing behavior and also needs of the customer. And one of the customer focused innovation that we do with our product is our enhanced travel insurance product. So we understand that the traveling during the pandemic requires more protection, especially with risk specific on COVID. Therefore, we update our travel insurance product, Allianz Travel Pro, with additional benefit that also covers risk relating to COVID. This product is actually available for single trip, so one-time trip, and also available for annual policy. Basically, this one is designed more for frequent travelers or if you travel more than 3 times in a year. So some of the benefits related specifically for COVID, for example, I think answering to those concerns and also expectation from what we did on the survey. One is the trip cancellation. So in the case the customer is already booked their trip and then they have to cancel or alter the trips or change their trip arrangement because he or she is infected by COVID, we provide the coverage there. And when it comes to medical expense, I think that is one of the high risks that travelers are facing when they travel, especially abroad. We provide medical expense up to 1.5 billion rupiah, which is basically aligned with the current requirements on some countries. And then we also provide emergency evacuation, repatriation, telephone, internet costs, and also hospitalization cash benefits. And on top of that, if the insured or the customer has to be quarantined because they are infected by COVID, we also provide a quarantine benefit up to 14 days. And in the case that the insured have to return early from the intended plan of the trip because one of their family back home is infected by COVID, we also provide the protection or the coverage there. And Allianz being one of the first insurer to provide these enhanced protections, we managed to grow our travel insurance business by 400% compared to 2020. So I think with the current situation where vaccination, strict health protocols, situation are much more manageable, although we're still seeing uncertainties with the Omicron. So far, we're still seeing an increase in traveling volume, both domestically and also internationally, despite this new challenge. Again, we are here. Allianz is always committed to provide protection for our customers, especially during this time. Therefore, for those who are traveling at this time of the year, it is best to secure your trip with Allianz Travel Pro, enhanced COVID cover, and we have this promo for end of the year. So if you purchase our Allianz Travel Pro prior to 31st of December, we also provide a GoPay voucher worth 100,000 rupiah. So moving forward, I think the pandemic has surely increased the public awareness on the importance of having insurance protection. People now see insurance as an essential part of their lives. And in Allianz, we committed to continuously educate public on the importance of insurance. And we did a lot of activities, for example, webinars, and then educational articles in Allianz Explore website, and so on. And we are committed to continue to provide this education, information, and also access to these protections. And but again, we see that we are confident that we are on the road to recovery. And we even did a research, a global travel insurance market projected that the travel insurance market will reach 33.7 billion by 2027. That's an annual growth rate of 6.7 between 2020 to 27. And then we see that technology also has changed the way we live, and we believe we can encourage product innovations, product design innovations, improve customer journey even better, and we will continue to conduct digital transformation going forward to better serve our customers. For example, we have a digital claim portal for motor vehicle and so travel insurance. We have interactive video call for claim survey and also insurance closing survey. And we also basically do a lot of various partnerships that enables us to basically access even wider customer base and also enables insurance to be embedded in daily purchase or daily activities. And hopefully that will basically close the gap or narrow the gap between between the insurance need and what customer currently have in terms of insurance protection. And going forward, we will continue to innovate to provide more solutions and also service that meet our customers in this new era. I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you. Back to you, Mas Taufik.
Okay, thank you, Bu Ria. I think I remember, and this is from two sociology professors saying that I think basically modern society is a society of risk. So I think that the presence of insurance services sort of help the population dealing with some of the risks that comes with COVID-19. I believe that COVID-19 is sort of the definition of risk society, that every day we have to live with this unknown situation that sort of snowballing into a bigger crisis. And we're very happy that there's a backup plan provided by Allianz to sort of mitigate the risk. Again, thank you, Bu Ria. And I think now it's the perfect time to sort of listen to presentation from Pak Arianto Patunru. After getting information, getting some of the details from individual industry, I believe Pak Arianto can provide us with sort of a big picture view of the situation for next year. I have to introduce Pak Arianto. He is a lecturer at the Arne Corden Department of Economics, Australian National University. His current research areas include trade, industry, and environmental economics. Bang Aco, I'd like to call him that, has published papers in the Journal of Development Studies and the American Journal of Agricultural Economics. He's also an editor of the Bulletin of Indonesian Economic Studies. His latest edited book is on globalization, poverty, and income equality. Bang Aco also engaged in policy work through ANU Indonesia Project in Canberra and the Center for Indonesian Policy Studies. On a personal note, I knew him back when he was still running a very influential blog in the early 2000s. Yeah, we're that old. We still have blog back then. Cafe Salembao, which is very influential. I once or twice wrote for the blog, but please don't look it up. It's not really worth reading. So thank you for joining us, Bang Aco. Please, the time and screen is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Mas Taufik. It's always good to chat with you, and thanks for the Jakarta Post for inviting me. So let me try to share my screen. Is it good now, Mas Taufik? Okay. Again, thank you so much, and I have been enjoying so much the previous presentations. with business perspective. So sorry that I am now giving you the boring part, the macro perspective. I hope this will just have at least some footnotes to the very interesting business perspectives that the previous speakers have told us. So let me start with a tale of three crises, if you like. Many of us, I think, still remember that we had two other crises before this COVID, right? The first one, the severe one, was the Asian financial crisis. And then the mild one, if you like, is the GFC, or global financial crisis. Why I am showing you this is because I wanted to give some comparative perspective that there are some similarity from the current crisis, the COVID crisis, and the AFC, not so much with the GFC, in the sense that they are both V-shaped. But if you look at this, I don't know if you can see my arrow here, the V shape that we had in the Asian financial crisis was severe, like very deep, right? In the last quarter of 1998, we had minus 18% growth, or 18% contraction at that time. And compared to the, so don't look at the horizontal axis as a regular time series. I just try to put them together so we can have a feel of what's going on and in this COVID crisis compared to the other two crises. So this blue one here is the Asian financial crisis that was started in first quarter 1994. And while this green one here is the COVID crisis, let's call it COVID crisis, starting, I just take the time series from 2014, but actually the crisis started somewhere in, of course, 2020, right? So March 2020, and then dropped quite sharply, and then it rebounded. When the title of the seminar is Rebound, basically we already reached back to quite high, but that it was because what economists like to call base effect, right? Because we had quite severe downturn here. So when it rebound, it's quite high, but then it will, recalibrate toward a new normal, and probably, as Pak Taufik mentioned in the beginning, it's probably around 4%, 5% in this coming 2 years. But again, my point here is that we had more severe crisis back then in 97, 98. Some people ask about how do we compare with the global financial crisis. Basically, global financial crisis was mild from Indonesia's perspective, right? Because we were one of the countries that was actually quite successful in navigating the global financial crisis. Alas, this COVID crisis was not, everyone is not ready for it, right? While in GFC, we learned the hard lesson here. We instituted good policies. We did many reforms, good reforms. So when the global financial crisis hit, it was quite mild, but as many other countries, we were not ready for COVID, so we had this downturn here. Fortunately, also, as in the case of other countries, it's recovered back, but then we had Omicron, right? So the uncertainty is high again this time, so I'm not going to even try to project what's going to happen next year or 2 years down the road, but I will try to highlight some of the potential issues that we might need to deal with. Okay, so just quickly on the other macro indicators, because Jakarta Post also asked about the outlook for the rupiah, for example. So if you look at, again, exchange rate, we can compare this three crises. Again, the Asian financial crisis, stands out very prominently. And the other two crises, we can compare the COVID crisis and GFC. They're quite similar. Of course, there are some peak there. After the July 1997, after the Central Bank of Thailand float the baht, everyone was, having the severe hit, including rupiah, of course. And for in the case of global financial crisis, that was after of course the Lehman Brothers collapse in September 15, 2008, right? So we have this quite high depreciation in November 2008. In terms of COVID, we first had the case in March 2020. It was a bit reflected in the rupiah, but then it dies down. So if people ask me what's going to be happening in next year, I don't know, maybe 15,000, 16,000. But the point is, it's not as severe as the previous crisis, AFC. Now, inflation. I don't want to compare AFC again here, because if I put AFC inflation series here, these two other series will be very small. Why? Because in AFC, it's quite different. The fundamental, the exchange rate was really bad. That makes the inflation also very high. We reach around 80%, I think, at the peak at that time. But in terms of the global financial crisis, which is quite similar for the pattern of exchange rate before, we can compare the inflation. And again, today's inflation is not as severe. Of course, there has been discussion about peaking inflation in the US, in European countries, but I don't think it's going to translate as fast to Indonesia or other countries in the region because of different, fundamentals and environment. But this one is quite concerning to me, and that is the unemployment rate, right? Because right before the COVID crisis, actually our unemployment has dropped to below 5%, which is quite good. It's historically it's really good, but then it increases, and now actually we are at the more than 6% of unemployment. So we have to deal with this. And in the previous slide, in the early slide, I said we have a V-shape. Some of you might have heard about K-shape. So taking this into account, we might also be dealing with a K-shape in a sense that some of the higher income groups will recover quite quickly, so up, but then some of other unlucky ones, probably not so much. So the V at the macro level, K at the micro level, perhaps, right? Hopefully it's not going that way. Now, some challenges and opportunities ahead. Again, I'm not gonna be spending too much time. I know we are time pressured here, but there are some challenges that I want to highlight. First is endemicization. I'm not sure if that's even a word, Mas Taufik, but endemicization of the pandemic. What I mean by this is that just before Omicron, many countries have already, leaders have already launched policies anticipating that we are gonna live with this virus. It's gonna stay with us for quite some time, but then it's stable, it's stabilized, and we have some ways to deal with it, just like we did or our grandparents did with the flu pandemic long time ago, right? But then Omicron came, and suddenly, boom, everyone said that, okay, wait a minute, we probably need to collaborate again. We probably need to, the Moderna guys, the virus scientists said that, okay, our current vaccine might not be as powerful. We might have to, try to find new vaccine again, and so forth, right? So basically the endemic cessation is slowing down because of Omicron. And who knows, maybe some more virus of concern is coming our way, right? So, but having said that, I think we really need to learn how to live with this virus in all its variants, in all its mutations. Before, people said that Delta was the worst one, but now Omicron is there. It can mutate to 35 different mutations. People said it's less lethal, but it's more transmissible. So the question marks are still big, right? So that's first issue. The second issue, of course, the recalibrating economy. And then I would point out some of these, I think, because it's relevant to Pak Luhut's presentation also, and also other speakers. First, disrupted global value chains, right? I think we really need to aim for resilience rather than just robustness. And there is a very good book by Markus Brunnermeier just came out last month about this. So basically, what the world needs now is to be more resilient in the sense that it can move like a pine tree, but it will not break when there is strong wind, right? If you just focus on robustness, try to increase your strength further and further, you might actually break when there is a very strong wind, right? So what does this mean in terms of global value chains? I think maybe paradigm like just in time is no longer relevant. We now look at the new paradigm like just in case, or even just in worst case scenario, right? So probably the implication is that if you source your input from one country only, that might be a bit more dangerous. You can have 2 or 3 sources, other sources, right? To you in the supply chain connectivity. But going complete to the other extreme, that is to renationalize your production chain. That means inviting back or taking back your production chains from other countries is not recommended. Why? Because a new paper from a Journal of International Economics just last week had this simulation, and then they showed that actually the drop in GDP due to trade in the status quo, like what we have now, is less than every country in the global supply chains renationalized, right? So there's been a notion in the early months of the pandemic, for example, Japan government saying that let's take back all we have from China, for example, and they even gave incentive for their firms or companies to move back to Japan. Yes, some of them move, but not to Japan because they of course they see it's very expensive. They move to Thailand, Myanmar, and countries like that, right? But my point is, yes, we need resilience, but not complete renationalization, because that actually is counterproductive. Imported inflation, I have mentioned this a bit. So just move to the protectionism. I think we really need to refrain from isolating the domestic economy. We learned the hard way March 2020 to May 2020, when the government, not just Indonesia, but also in other countries, tried to close the country, close from exporting PPE, health products, and so forth, right? But of course, the production is not evenly distributed in the world, so that makes it even worse, because as a result, the prices were skyrocketing, right? So it took some time for governments to realize this, so they open up again. So let's not repeat that. I'm going to go back to that point just a little bit more later on. But just to mention the greener economy, there was some presentation before touching on this. I think that's really good. We already pledged for in the COP26, but we also need to entertain the possibility of greenflation. What is this? Of course, we need some adjustment from fully relying on fossil fuel, for example, and move to new and renewable resources, right? There is some transition period whereby probably we will see some increase in the cost because of the adjustment, but hopefully in the long term, it's not going to be permanent, right? So, but there are some concern about greenflation and how to deal with this. And then other challenges, I'm not going to mention these other challenges. Global tax regime, countries will have to coordinate with this global tax regime. I think Ibu Sri Mulyani wrote a very interesting article in Washington Post about this with Janet Yellen and others. And then digital technologies, I'm not going to discuss this, and cryptocurrencies, right? But I'm going to, if I still have time, Taufik, just a little bit on PAN, TKDN, and Omnibus Law. Okay, so for PAN or program pemulihan ekonomi nasional or Indonesia's pandemic relief, we all know the amount, but I think the issues remain. That is, first, the suboptimal budget realization. We know that it's never fully spent like intended, so there is some issue about distributing it and like that. And then another issue is it seems like it's proportionally higher for supply side, around 2/3 after you take out the health allocation. And I think there is a risk of this. If you focus too much on the supply side, while actually the demand side suffer more at this time, I think the relocation of resources might get distorted in the sense that, for example, if you keep spending so much money to businesses or even SOEs, for example, rather than cash transfer to household, you risk creating zombie firms, right? Some of these firms, actually, sorry to say, they're not productive, right? You don't want to spend taxpayers' money for these firms, but you want to incentivize the owner, which is the household, to find new job, better job, right? So we want to try to see a good balance there. And I think, in my point of view, I think they need to put the balance more on the demand side at the moment rather than supply side. And then, of course, budget ceiling. I think also the government, DPR, people has to entertain again the possibility that we are not going to be able to go back to 3% deficit ceiling in 2023. Given the situation, right? So maybe we need to start discuss how to deal with this. Maybe some adjustment. I don't know. Maybe it's too hard to change the law, but well, we need to be open-minded, right? And TKDN, Pak Luhut likes to mention this downstreaming, hilirisasi. I don't particularly agree with this idea of hilirisasi. Why? Because that runs counter to the idea of integrating more in the global value chain. Why? Global value chains, by the name, by definition, is actually vertical slices, vertical specialization, right? Not horizontal. Meaning, value added can come from everywhere. So if you force the country to just make everything within the country, you actually lose the opportunity to specialize on what you can produce best while outsourcing it to other countries, right? So this is, I think, we have to be really careful. I understand the idea of having domestic value added, high domestic value added in terms of creating employment, but we need to understand that that can be achieved by looking at the total value added, not per unit value added. Meaning, we can have small per unit value added, but if it involves many employments, we actually achieve export earning objective and also employment objective, right? We have, many of us have heard about this story about iPhone, for example, in China, but I'm not gonna repeat this in terms of, in the interest of time. So, and also, even though it is allowed in Indonesian regulation environment, I think we have to deal with the legal ramification in the global forum like the WTO disputes. Yes, some of the ministers or even presidents said, don't worry, we can deal with that. But well, if you spend so much time dealing with WTO disputes, I think it's not going to be productive, right? So last point, Mas Taufik, sorry, omnibus law, the controversial law, right? Well, I published a paper about this some time ago with a colleague, Andres Surianta. We have more than 15,000 ministerial regulations in Indonesia, 95% of which was issued just in 2010. And then, of course, we have province, city, perda, and all that, right? So just an anecdotal illustration here. One investor firm who wants to set up a factory in Indonesia to serve domestic market, he should first navigate over 900 rules of manpower and industry alone, right? And if it plans to link it up to global value chain, import intermediate goods or export final product, it should deal with another almost 700 rules. That's massive, right? So my point is, I'm all for omnibus law. I like the law actually, but there are some caveats, right? So first, it mostly trims at the highest level, like undang-undang, maybe peraturan presiden, but actually the regulatory obesity is down below, right? So peraturan menteri, peraturan daerah, peraturan, all those things, right? Second, it revokes 300 articles in laws, revised 900 more, but it requires 400 new implementing new regulations. So still quite complicated. And in lieu of another law, there will be 400 rules that can easily grow into thousands. And now, of course, we have this regulatory limbo, right? Due to people say flawed process. How do you fix flawed process? I don't even know how to do that. And I'm sure foreign investors are now really confused about this development. Thank you so much, Mas Taufik.
Thank you so much, Pak Arianto. I think this is what I like a lot of from Bang Aco, is that he's really modest in its projection, but really strong in its policy recommendation. And I believe some of the last points that he has was that really some of the things that we or the government has decided should be rethought or reconsidered. Because the situation on the ground is really different. But I think it's very valuable for us to sort of gain a big picture. And I think one of the key takeaway is that I think one of the most defining feature of COVID is that it's unpredictability. And this is going to be very different from the crisis in 97 or 98 and the Lehman Brothers crisis induced by Lehman Brothers crisis in 2008. I think we should move on to our next session. But some of our speaker will leave early. I believe that Pak Aditya even have left. So before we continue with the question and answer session, we're going to have a group photo for all our speakers. Ibu Ria, if you please, if you can join us back for a family photo, I should say. And I think we can leave. Pak Aditya already left, so we can have this without Pak Aditya. Are we ready, Abdur? Okay, I will count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pak Taufik. Sorry, I have to step out.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much, Pak Stefanus. I'll keep some of the question for you, and probably I will just email that to you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pak Taufik.
Yeah, we still have Pak Arianto, Pak Dicky, and Buria for the question and answer session. I have collected some of the questions, but before we go into some of the questions, I would like to thank our supporters today, our sponsors, Bank Neo Commerce, Allianz, and Sasa. Thank you so much for contributing to this webinar, and we look forward to having future collaborations. I'm going to start with I believe this is, well, most of the question is for Pak Dicky, and I believe this reflects, the great interest in I can say EV and green economy, green investment. And this is the first question is for Pak Dicky, related to green investment. Which sectors that will have the greatest chance of getting attention? This is for Pak Dicky first.
Thank you, Pak Taufik, and thank you for the questions. I think today solar PV aspect is considered to be the most achievable, since like this business needs less investment than other NRE. Since like the solar PV is what we call that, the most popular and the most easiest NRE things to develop, since like if we want to develop 1 megawatts of the solar PV, is only need 4 to 5 months to install in grounded SIM. And also the government aggressively or initiate the regulations to support this solar PV development. So I think that this solar PV will going to be the robust or one of the most business will going to be in the coming years. I think that's my answer, Pak Taufik.
Thank you, Pak Dicky. The next question is for Buria. And I think in your presentation, you have mentioned a lot of things about new protection or new services given to your customers. But the question is sort of, want to ask a general question about, and this is particularly in relation to Omicron, with the rise of the new variant, what do you think the impact will be for the travel industry, and how does Allianz see the prospect of insurance for 2022, especially for travel insurance, given the heightened risk from Omicron? And I think we learned today that we have the first case for Indonesia, which is a new, it's a new development. Please, Buria.
Thank you, Mas Taufik. I think again, Omicron definitely present uncertainties with the currently rising tourism industry, and then this new variant basically emerged. And this might have an impact on causing tourists to take extra precautions when traveling. And this could potentially further delay the travel industry's recovery. But I think we see this new variant as a reminder that COVID was still very much with us. And if we must travel during this time, we must always not put our guards down and prepare with extra protection. That's why we're here, especially with our travel insurance protection, which offers additional protection against COVID. And we'll continue to educate and basically make the public aware of the importance of our insurance, travel insurance protections. And I guess for 2022, I think we're again optimistic. Quoting from Luhut, previously, I think we prepared to withstand the uncertainties, and we remain optimistic. Of course, the pandemic will still be with us, having a major impact on traveling. However, since we've been in the pandemic for almost 2 years now, and I think we are more prepared than we did in the beginning of the pandemic, adjusting on how we can deliver our service to best serve our customers and providing relevant protection with the situation and etc. And Allianz, as one of the leading insurer, we will continue to provide the best protection and service our customer despite the challenges. I think together we can stand as one. Thank you, Mas.
The third question, and this is sort of a general question, and I believe Bang Aco, Pak Arianto already answered these questions, although, and you answered this very modestly. But the question to you again is sort of, and this is, the question sort of, want to know, they insist on an answer, like a surefire answer, is that when do you expect the country's economy to be fully recovered, if you have a crystal ball to look to the future?
Yeah, I think it's a bit difficult to predict, Mas. I mean, there's still a lot of uncertainties. But if I can say specifically from the travel, because that's basically our expertise right now, we're still seeing a lot of increase despite the new variant. The travel volume is still increasing. Yes, there's been cancellations of trips or delay in trips, but so far, I think the volume is still there. I mean, we're still seeing increase on a monthly basis when it comes to our travel volume.
Okay, Bang Aco, the question goes to you too.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the short answer is I don't know, but I think if I may speculate, I mean, people are amazing, right? We thought that we were not gonna have vaccines for months or even for years, right? But then this, even though it is more transmissible, but it's less lethal. I don't know the science of it, but the point is, as I said, I think we are going to have to live with this even newer variant. So, but because of that, I think on the economy side, there has been some preparations of the worst case, even the worst case scenario. So we see now that when the demand is up even faster than supply actually. So that is the problem in the US and North America, because now they're having inflation, right? But the point is when the economy recovers, it can recover really, really fast, right? But of course, we don't know if the Omicron will translate again to the 16, 17, 18 alphabets and the Greek alphabets probably. And maybe some of them are actually AOC or sorry, VOC or variant of concern. But I think we need to start resuming economic activities, but also at the same time increasing the domestic surveillance. Right. By that I mean, if I may connect to Ibu Ria's point about tourism, I think we can start thinking about travel bubble, for example, with adjacent country, and then grow the bubble gradually, right? Include more and more members, but at the same time increase or enforce domestic surveillance, in the sense that we have to improve the test tracing and things like that. So when things happen, we can quickly anticipate, the affected community and things like that. So we don't need to go to complete full lockdown again, for example.
So lockdown will be a no-go territory for, I think, most countries in the world. I don't believe that it's going to be an option, but I believe with Omicron, and we have seen this, like countries imposing travel restriction. And this sort of ties into the next question: how will another mobility restriction will affect Indonesia's 2022 economic recovery?
Yeah, I think Indonesia is not so much dependent on tourism as as the whole pie of the economy, right? But it's growing. So potential of tourism is really impressive. But then this virus came, right? So how to deal with this? Again, insurance, even some creative type. Of course, we cannot really substitute virtual museum and things like that for the real feeling of going to the open space and things like that. But we have to move gradually, I think. So again, to emphasize my points, it can be developed, but still we need to improve on domestic surveillance for Indonesians and also the tourists that come to the country. And I think in 2020 next year and beyond, we will see so many adjustments. I myself have so many travel credits already because they keep canceling, and then they change it to travel credits, right? I'm looking forward to use it to go to visit you, Mas Taufik.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope we can see each other very soon. Okay, I want to move on to the next question, and this is for Pak Dicky. See, there's a great large amount of interest for Pak Dicky, and this is a little bit too technical. I think this is from Ibu Aulia Adriani, and she mentioned about, in your presentation, in your slide, under the heading of low carbon solutions, gas to power. As we are aware, there's some BBG, bahan bakar gas vehicle. Do you think that BBG car or bus still need to be boost. We need more of those kind of vehicles, because I do think that the gas station for gas filling, the station for gas filling, SPBG, is quite limited, Pak Dicky.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I think the gas-powered vehicle is a project from Pertamina Group to support the initiative from our government to what we call that, to reduce the emissions with the change the technology of the vehicle from combustion engine that using the gasoline to the gas-powered vehicle. But from the implementations, we are facing more challenges to and some of the what we call that, the on the conversion, because the vehicle needs to change some parts to support the fuel change from the fossil fuel to the gas. And also the challenges is on the what we call that, the infrastructure, because we need to build some infrastructure from the upstream. You know that the gas from our field needs to produce and needs to deliver to some places, and it become more what we call that, more complicated to implement on this vehicle system. But I think in the future there are some various technology that we all know, that there is the hydrogen fuel cell car and electric vehicle technology, and also we are facing the solar PV electric vehicle, which powered by solar PV. That in the future we are facing what we call more challenges, and I think the gas powered vehicle one of the alternative we'll use in the future. I think that's my question, my answer, Pak Taufik.
Okay, so and I have one more question for you, Pak Dicky. We're not going to let you go easily.
Sure, Pak.
Yeah, this is specific. This is from Pak Alexander in Melbourne. In the presentation, there is an expectation that the huge growth of solar energy growth. There is an expectation of huge growth to achieve targets. What government incentives will be provided to overseas investors, as capital is competitive but return on renewable is presently not incentivized for overseas investors? So this is basically what you can offer to foreign investors when they want to go into the business for solar energy.
Okay, thank you, Pak Taufik, and thank you, Pak Alex, for the questions. And I think I've seen that Pak Alex is having a gift from Jakarta Post as the best questions, right? Congratulations for Pak Alex and giving me some headache, but no, it's a joke. Like I mentioned before, that for solar PV growth is not what we call surprise for all of us in the industry, because the government is also set this initiative, or solar PV is being one of the key strategic objective from the government through the Energy Ministry, that they are going to support solar PV development as one of the part of the energy mix, who will support the government initiative to reach the 23% on 2025. And also the solar PV technology is more more what we call that more more. I think I have what we call that the solar PV is the low hanging fruit in this business. Since like you know that I've been make a statement at first that the price of the electricity from solar PV is also competitive, and the government is also deliver the ministry decree like they are going to support this solar PV as the cheapest what we call that cheapest electricity tariff, and also the government is encourage not only the industry but encouraging all the citizens to use this solar PV develop in their houses and their what we call that their property. I think the government incentive is for right now or currently we are having a very supportive presence from the government.
I have one last question each for Bu Ria and Bang Aco. I will go to Bu Ria first, and this is I think this is for the uninitiated to the industry, and this is really a basic question, Bu Ria. With COVID-19, is this going to be and again this is kind of like a really basic question, is this going to be an added burden to the industry, or this is really an opportunity? So that probably in 2022 we can expect that things will change.
Yeah, I think we see this an opportunity, Mas Taufik. I mean, again, we must cope with the situation. We must adapt to the situations. And for example, with the situation now, we're more relying on technology, and this also presents opportunities to basically innovate with other products, embedding insurance product in daily purchase and activities. As I mentioned earlier, I think with the situation, we are now doing a lot of partnerships, for example, with e-commerce and others. Insurance protection, which is previously only available, for example, in traditional channels, now is also available in these new channels. So access to protection is much more easier now for the customer. So definitely, I think this will open a lot of new opportunities for the insurance industry.
Okay. Thank you, Bu Ria. And this is the very last question for Bang Aco. I think from our experience in the past 2 years in dealing with COVID-19, we see really a huge expansion of the role of the state or the government. And I think in your presentation you caution against government or countries turning to protectionism. But at the same time, this is sort of a necessity that you have to do during COVID. So my question, well, I wish Pak Luhut is here, but how do you balance between the nanny state in one side and sort of maintaining freedom of commerce globally, if not regionally?
Well, thank you so much, Mas Taufik. That's really good question. I think if there is a time when we need government role, bigger government role, this is the time, right? But we just need to be careful because the likelihood of pandemic risks is going down, right? But there is the possibility that we will be dealing with policy risks. So on the one hand, we might be successfully address the pandemic risks given how good people are adapting, how good technology is progressing. But at the same time, the government might have this feeling that they will need to play big permanently, right? And that translates into policies here and there, and some of them might not be appropriate, or even worse, make the reallocation of resources suboptimal. For example, if I link it to my earlier point, I think this is the time that government probably should consider consider the balance towards, in terms of assistance, towards more to the household rather than the business. I'm sorry to my business colleagues if I sound harsh, but I think all the business players also are households, right? If we direct this to households, they will be able to be more creative. But we don't want to keep, improving or maintain firms that are not productive, because they will turn into zombie firms, right? Of course, this is not difficult. I understand. This is not easy. I understand, because one of the requirements to be able to do this is, of course, a very good unified database that can target who is really the poorest. But of course, we have some issues also on that at that front, right? So in the future, I think we need to improve the database. Who knows? Maybe there are some more variants, along the way. But it's important to restrain from doing, to be too creative from the government side in terms of policy. Of course, some of them are needed, but it is very important not to fix something that is not broken.
Okay, thank you, Bang Acho. I think that's a great response, and I think that's a perfect way to sort of wrap up our session today. Thank you for all the panelists' response and all questions from the audience. I think those are all great questions, and it has been really enlightening discussion. And I think if there's one takeaway from our discussion today, and I think there's a line going through all of the speakers, is that I think, well, despite the Omicron announcement today, I think there's still a lot of room for optimism for next year, and I hope all the speakers and participants can agree with that on that note. So I think before we conclude, I have to let the audience know that all materials for the participant, from all the speaker is available. I think the committee will distribute a sort of a QR code after this. I think this is the QR code. You can scan it and get all the materials, valuable materials from all the speaker. And I believe we can wrap up our webinars today. And in closing, I'd like to quote from one of the wise men, or I should say wise hobbit in the Lord of the Ring. This is Samwise Gamgee if you read or if you see the film. But in the end, it's only a passing thing. It's just a little bit cliche. It's only a passing thing. This shadow, even darkness, must pass. A new day will come. So I think that's this. I believe this is a speech to Frodo after the long journey. I think that could sort of summarize our discussion today. Again, thank you so much for all the speakers for a great presentation. And I'd like to thank all the participants, and see you in the next webinar series, and have a great weekend, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mas Taufik. Thank you, everyone.
Terima kasih.
Thank you, Mas Taufik.